It was very convenient.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting of November 24th, 2015 at 7 o'clock. And this meeting is being cablecast by Area 58 Community Access Media, Channel 15. If we could please stand, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first on the agenda, we have a continuation of a public hearing. MG Lotus LLC special permit for 67 Main Street. Assessors map 61-1-0. It's a proposed 6-unit townhouse development in a general business district. Zoning bylaws 2230, 3900, and 5300. And, well, this is filed with the town clerk October 2nd, 2015. The last meeting was December 31st, 2015. Good evening.
Evening, Joe Webby Engineering, and with me is Angela Chin from MG Lotus. And the last time we were here, we had proposed to have 3 buildings of 2 units each for a total of 6. We were told we couldn't do that, so we've revised our plans to 2 buildings of 3 units each. Basically, the infrastructure is all almost the same. We did shrink a little bit of the pavement, but the drainage is the same, and everything else is same as presented. We also have brought an architectural of the what the outside of the building would look like for you to review.
Thank you. Does anybody have any, Marlene, do you have anything to add to this before I go on to the?
You have my written comments, so if you want to ask any questions about those, otherwise they're just part of your record.
Marlene, could you comment on your second bullet point there?
Sure. So, the townhouse development bylaw has an open space requirement, and, let me see here. And 3955 says that any proposed open space, unless conveyed to the town or its conservation commission, shall be subject to a recorded restriction enforceable by the town, providing that such land shall be perpetually kept in an open state. So this would be, compliance with this section of the bylaw would be a condition of an approval that prior to the project being closed out, either that open space would be deeded to the town conservation commission or privately restricted in somehow, and you would require those deed instruments to be submitted to the board.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, on that, to Joe, what's the applicant's direction on that?
Angela's here, but I believe she's going to have a condominium association that will restrict that through deeds.
Okay. Yes. And you'll provide us with all that language and documentation and. The other thing I had was your bullet point on number 3 is the required fencing. I know at the previous hearing that we had, there was some abutters that submitted documentation on fencing. I see that you have proposed 6-foot-high stockade fence on the
South side.
south side. And is that going the whole length, Joe?
We had proposed it approximately from the lot line of the if I can call them this development over here, to our, almost to our through our drainage easement. It's about 200 feet of fencing.
Okay. And I know that another abutter had asked for the same fence line on the other side.
That's
but
correct.
You're not showing any.
We
unless I
have
missed
not
it.
proposed it, yes. We were waiting for your direction.
Okay. Normally, when a butter asks for, you know, some fencing or some buffering, normally we discuss that and condition that. I was hoping to see it on the plan, but that's for a discussion for us if we wanna have them do that for the neighbors.
Well, we may go, if we decide to go on a site visit, and we can actually take a look and see if it's needed there or not.
Mhm.
I don't think we're gonna close the meeting tonight. We'll go to the,
Mhm.
do the site visit and then
Okay.
come back one more time. Does anybody else have any comments? Jim, do you have anything?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. Kevin?
My only question would be on number one. There is going to be, we are going to hope that we can have some affordable housing of that.
Well, it's a requirement, so, for the townhouse bylaw, 10% of the total units have to be restricted for affordable housing, so that would be, in this case, rounded up to 1 unit.
Okay, so would they have to designate which one of these it would be?
Yep, so just like the open space, all of those deed restrictions and those instruments would be a condition of any approval and delivered to the board before it could be closed out.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Marlene, I assume that Fuss and O'Neill looked at the drainage and,
So, yes, and there is a memo that I received this evening in your packet. It was received late in the day, so if you're gonna continue the hearing, obviously that'll give you additional time to review it, but
Yep.
all of their comments have been received.
thank you. And I
John.
assume that, Joe, you got this memo?
I
He will?
emailed it to Greg
Okay.
at like 5:30. It was late.
Okay.
Yeah, because Sean did have a few things. All right, well, since you haven't seen it, if there's no more comments to be made by the board, I'll see if there's anybody out in the audience that would like to make a comment. Is there anyone in the audience that is here tonight to, with any comments about this project? Well, seeing none. I think we could, can we close the public hearing now and then propose, and then set a date for a site
If you,
walk, and I think it's needed for this.
if you feel like your record's complete, that you don't need to gather any more testimony or any more information besides the site walk, then you can do that. You can close the public hearing. We can schedule your site walk and then bring it back for a board discussion at the next meeting.
All right, because, yeah, Sean does make some, and since the engineers haven't seen this, it's just tonight, but he was talking about limited side yard buffer planting.
Mr. Chair,
Mhm.
if I may. I don't think we've ever closed the public hearing before doing a site walk.
Okay, yeah,
And the only reason why I'm saying that is if we get more information while we're out there and we need more clarification, either from the engineer or from the applicant or from Fuss and O'Neill. That's all information that we'll
That the
need.
public might want to
And we'll-
comment on.
Exactly.
Mm,
So
All right.
I would be against closing the public hearing.
all right. So why don't we schedule a time for a site visit?
If I could, Mr. Chair, while we're all thinking about it, through you to the applicant, I saw that you did quite a bit of cleanup there. That's appreciative. You've removed some of the major logs and everything, so thank you.
We're trying, sir.
Thank you very much. I know we asked for that and saw that some progress is being made, so I appreciate that. Okay.
I'm pretty much available. Of course, it's getting darker, so I guess we'd have to be there by 4.
Yeah.
Do you have a date that's not involved with a bunch of meetings that we're doing?
I'll be available when the board wants to schedule it, so.
Okay.
You guys come first on my list.
How's the 30th for everybody? That's next Monday.
I wouldn't be available.
Okay. What's good for you?
It's supposed to rain too.
Okay, so we're not doing that in the rain.
I'm glad somebody's checking.
What about the 1st?
That's fine.
You back
No,
on the 1st?
December 1st?
Yep.
December 1st.
That works with me. Does it work with you, Jim? Oh, Jim's looking.
What did we do when we didn't have little calendars?
Yes, 4 o'clock would be fine.
Make a motion to set the site visit for 4 o'clock on the 1st of December.
Have a motion, to have a second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second for a site visit at 4 o'clock, December 1st. Those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll do it December 1st. And now we need a,
Motion to continue the hearing?
continue the hearing.
Motion to continue the hearing?
I'll second that.
And when would our next hearing be? What-
So I'd recommend that you just, continue it to December 8th at 7 PM.
Can we have discussion?
Sure.
Is there anything in particular that we want to see when we go to the site visit? So just so that way the applicant's ready for us?
Yeah, I was just interested in the fencing. I don't know if, you probably want the 4 corners of the 2 units to be marked out.
You want the roadway, entranceway stake?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Then that'll give us an idea of where the road is, where the buildings are. I don't know if we could have some staking, just some beam poles along, like 4 or 5 beam poles, maybe along the property lines on each side of the property, just to see where the property is.
You good with that, Joe? Yeah, that ought to give us a good see for the buffer. And
I think so, yeah.
the motion is second for the continuance.
So we do that? Did we do a motion? No.
Motion and a second's been made for continuance.
Oh, a motion, and a second's been made, okay. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you. You guys have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next on the agenda is a public hearing for Sheraton Home Builders Special Permit 3 Braddock Way. And this is a new hearing. So we have a public hearing notice.
Same page as you. Sorry,
In
brother.
accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw, the Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 24th, 2015 at 7 PM in the Carver Town Hall Meeting Room 1 on the application of Sheraton Home Builders requesting a special permit pursuant to Sections 2230 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 3 Braddock Way in Carver, Mass. Assessors Map 18, Lot 18-D, to allow a duplex in a village district. Any persons interested in wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the town clerk's office and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair, and the Carver Reporter published dates were November 6th and 13th of 2015. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Steve Katowski. I work for Webby Engineering. Here to present the plans tonight for Sheridan Construction, who's the applicant. Matt Sheridan is here tonight in the audience. As was stated in the public hearing, the applicant seeks to get a special permit from the Planning Board to build a duplex in a village district, which is allowed as a special permit through your authority. The lot was created, it was divided from, just to give you a little reference, if you're not familiar with the area, this is the florist, little gift shop that was there. It was back before you folks. We didn't do the engineering, but this is where what I remember was the dog training facility, the permit that came before you last spring. That was where the original parcel was. This was subdivided out through a Form A. This is the remaining land, the open space that was cut out. The frontage is on Main Street, but as I'm sure most of you probably traveled along this way as you're heading north on 58, you'll see that this drops off pretty significantly along Main Street, and there's also guardrails that pretty much follow all the way along the edge of the pavement. So when the lot was created, the Form A plan allowed for access on Braddock Way, which is this 40-foot wide section that comes in here, just because it just made more sense to access the property from there, even though the official frontage is on Main Street, which is in excess of the 150 that's required. We've got well over 500 feet of frontage on Main Street. There are a lot of wetlands in this area, which we had delineated by Brad Holmes. They run along the northerly property line, and they're isolated. They're connected through a culvert under the road, both sides, but they're isolated as far as they cut off from the other side of Main Street. So we delineated the wetlands resource areas to figure out how much land was available for development, and basically what we've got here is a limit of work that goes along this edge in here. The applicant is proposing to build a duplex, which is, I have pictures, they might be in your package also, of what he's proposing to build. Are essentially two colonial single-family houses, a 32 by 24, which would be attached by a garage. So there are two identical structures with two single car garages. So as I've indicated, the access will come in off of Braddock Way. That's where all the utilities will come in. There is town water available down in this area, so the applicant will be bringing in a water service for both of the units. What we're proposing on the driveway is gravel at this point, and the reason for that is we do have to get a variance, hopefully after we get a special permit granted by this board through the Conservation Commission, because a small section of our driveway goes within their 65-foot no disturb zone. And their no disturb zone is pretty specific, where it doesn't allow for any impervious construction. So we're proposing a gravel driveway so that when we go before the Conservation Commission, they'll allow it. What we're hoping is that they'll realize that it's more practical to come in off of Braddock, even though the access is shorter coming in off of Main Street. It's just that it's very steep coming in there. Traffic situations, the guardrail situation, just felt it was easier to come in off of Braddock. Plus, it just aesthetically, it looks a little bit nicer coming in off of there rather than having another curb cut off of Main Street. Because these are residential and it's not gonna be developed for commercial, again, it kinda made more sense to come in where most of the other properties in this area are residential. Car wash is over here, Cumberland Farms is here, and as you get, further up 58, most commercial development in this area. There are some residential homes up in this area, and there's a residential house here up on Braddock. So we went out, we did perk tests in the area where the proposed septics. I've colored them in blue just so you can see them from here. We had a relatively high water table, a little bit better actually than what we thought. But the systems will have two separate septic systems. I'm just showing the leaching area. We didn't actually show the septic tanks, but they'll be along the side of the house. There'll be all of the power and everything, as I said, the utilities will come in off of Braddock Way. The elevations in there essentially will be, there won't be anything mounded up. We've got the existing elevation of 102, and our proposed top of foundation is gonna be 104. It's basically gonna be a partial foundation. Rather than raising it completely up and then having grading issues going within the conservation setbacks, we've decided to go with a partial foundation, so it'll be, what you would typically see, a 3.5-foot foundation, and the garages will be basically sitting right on grade. As far as what we're proposing for drainage, because it is residential, it's only 2 units, it's less than 4, we've just decided with the gravel, we're not gonna shed any water off onto any abutters. We're gonna have a subsurface drainage trench along the back of the houses that they'll be tying in all the roof drainage into. And essentially, as you can see here, this is the area that meets all the best location to develop. All the rest of it will remain as open space. And we've kept it as compact as we can, given the setback issues that we have from the wetlands. And I think that's about it. It does meet all the requirements as far as for village district, as far as lot size, area requirements, things like that. And that's it.
Thank you. Do you have any additional comments, Marlene, or?
I don't have any comments. It conforms to the zoning bylaw. The fire department is asking for a 22-foot wide driveway.
Yeah, I've seen this, because of the proposed duplex construction in which the 2 units are connected, both units will be required to be outfitted with residential sprinklers. That's the,
I did receive the comments that were forwarded to me from Mr. Sheridan, and we discussed both of the concerns from the fire department. What he said he's willing to do is to increase the size of the width of the driveway to 22 feet. I know that it mentions in the comment too, they wanted a more solid surface rather than the gravel, but as I indicated with the Conservation Commission and location of the resource areas, we're gonna try to see if we can get them to allow widening to the 22 feet, if that is what the fire chief wants. But again, where it's so narrow in here, it is sort of at their discretion as to what we'll be allowed to do in here, but the applicant is willing to increase it to 22 feet. I just think that the gravel is probably gonna be more of an issue for the Conservation Commission, because it specifically says in their bylaw. So hopefully that's a compromise with the fire department. As far as the sprinkler Matt had checked with the building code, and I can't speak about it as well as probably he could, but it's always been my understanding that duplexes less than specific square footage are exempt from sprinklering, and I know he said that he had checked with the building code himself and confirmed that. And that's always been my understanding, is that as long as you have just a duplex and above that is required to have sprinkling. And I know typically fire chiefs, you know, they want to have as much sprinkling as they can, and I know that Matt's not proposing to sprinkle the units.
Do you know anything, have any further information about whether to sprinkle or not to sprinkle?
I know Mr. Chair, I know in the past, the towns had that, we've had to do that. I don't know where it's located in the NFPA or the building codes or anything like that. I'm not that good at that, so.
That's,
I'd ask the fire chief for better clarification.
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
Any-
sure that if you intend on continuing the hearing, I'll let him know about the continuation and ask him if he wants to come and address you.
It might, that might be a good thing, because the applicant's saying that he'll do the proposed width, but he won't do the type of surface that the fire department would like, but then there's a reason why that can't be done. So it might be good if he could show up and we could discuss that.
I'll definitely let him know.
Under some sort of an agreement of what we can do out there.
Question to you, Mr. Chair, to the applicant. Have you guys filed with Concom?
No, typically, that's always the last step in any permitting
Oh.
process. You know, after, hopefully, if we get a special permit from you folks, the next step, even before going to conservation, would to file with the Board of Health for the septic system designs. Once those are approved, then the last step in most permitting with wetlands and conservation is then you file with them, because they assume that all the other boards and permits have been obtained. So that would be the last thing that we'll be doing. I know we did get comments back also from the Conservation Commission, I think just basically stating that they haven't seen this yet, and there's a reason, because, you know, as I said, but we will be filing and intend to file when it's, everything else has been permitted.
So what sort of a gravel driveway are you proposing?
It's basically, it's a compacted gravel with a stone veneer, a crushed stone type of a, surface. You know, it won't be just dirt. They'll subgrade it down 6 inches and then bring in a veneer of gravel. You know, depends on typically what the builder wants to use as far as the color. You know, sometimes blue, white, stone, depending on, what's available, what their preference is.
We have no problem with pavement, sir. It's just a matter of if conservation would allow it. We certainly have no problem with paving it with fire sheets. It's just we don't think it was allowed. But we have no problem running that by conservation.
What he's saying is correct, if the Conservation Commission allows the pavement, and I think it would be better for them to approve it that way, but, if they have a problem with it, we're kinda caught in the middle. But, obviously, he's willing to, accept it as a condition, that if the Conservation Commission is acceptable to paving it, then he would be agreeable to paving as well.
All right. So we'll have to figure that out, so we could put that in as a condition somewhere later down the line. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Just had a quick question on the, I guess the back of the project that'll be facing Main Street. Is that gonna be all wooded, or?
Yeah, I mean, they'll have a tree line just up to the edge of where the leaching field is gonna be, but I would expect that they're gonna leave as much buffering as they possibly can, just because of, the traffic, the noise, and just the aesthetics. You don't wanna open that up so that, when you're trying to sell one of these units, the first thing they see is the traffic
That's
going
what I was
by.
thinking, was if you're
Yeah.
coming up Route 58, you're gonna
I would
see that.
guess, Matt, that's probably what you're gonna try to do, is keep as much buffering between
Yeah,
58.
literally as much natural growth.
It actually is very thick in there, as right now,
Okay.
you know, as far as, there's a lot of white pines right up to the edge of the,
Yep.
right up to the edge of the road.
Thank you.
Do we have anything in our bylaws about any landscaping for this type of development?
So your general landscaping criteria would apply for the special permit.
Quite a bit of buffering, Bruce.
But given that it's a residential use, you know, you'd have to use your best judgment. You're clearly not gonna require, you know, the commercial type of installation.
Kevin?
My only question is, this is the village district opposed to the historical district? Or is that almost the same thing?
I don't know if they're in the historic district. That would be a separate,
I already verified.
We already checked with the building,
Okay.
and it's not, because I saw what these folks had to go through, and I warned Matt, you know, and actually the line, I think goes, there's a certain setback off of Braddock Way, and this is set back far enough away, so
You
it's,
just would've had to make them old Victorian looking.
And,
Yeah.
no biggie.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I have a question through Marlene, and for some reason it's bothering me. Bylaw states 150 feet of frontage.
Mhm.
Does it also state, and I can't remember, that's why I'm asking, that they have to gain access off that frontage?
well, that would have been your discussion on whether or not you were gonna approve the A&R plan, which is already done. So
Oh,
that would have been your determination on whether you're gonna endorse the A&R. So you must have made that determination and granted that endorsement.
I don't remember that. It might have been when I wasn't here, before me. Do you know when that was done?
I think I have a copy of it.
Thank you.
It was 2007, January 27th. Sorry, that was the date of the plan. It was actually signed by you folks in June 2007.
Can I see it for a second, do you mind? Can't remember last week. Thank you.
I don't know, we could ask.
Might be a silly question, but if the driveway is in the historic district and the building is in the village district, does that, is the rules just because the building itself versus the driveway? So there's not any
It's-
problems that they might run into?
It's where the building is on whether or not they're gonna exert jurisdiction,
Okay.
so.
I just didn't know if it was anything a part of the project. I didn't want to have them find something out on that, oh, these driveways,
Yeah,
but it's not, it's just the building itself.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's-
great, thank you.
that's my understanding is it would be the structure.
Structure, okay. Figured I'd ask.
Chad, do you have anything to add? Anybody else? Any further comments? This is a public hearing, so if there's anybody out in the audience that would like to make any comments, have any questions? Seeing none, I guess we need to, does everybody feel that they would like to have a site visit? If you, we don't have to, but if you feel that, that would help, we could. How, where those proposed buildings are now, is that heavily vegetated now, or is that open?
It's a
It's
good
really
mixture.
thick.
There probably was a nice field in there at one time, and
Yeah.
the white pines have taken over.
Yeah.
It's been opened up a little bit, and it is accessible, but it's gonna be difficult even if we staked it really to kinda,
Yeah.
I mean, we could stake it, but I think it's gonna be, everybody's just gonna kinda look around, cause we kinda got lost in there. Even though it's only a couple of acres of land, it's still kinda, you get turned around in there.
Does, anybody feel that we need a site visit for this? It's a simple
I don't,
matter, yeah,
personally, I don't need,
yeah.
I don't think we need to look at it.
I know, yeah, I think it's, pretty thick out there.
I'm not concerned about that, I just think that it's pretty simple, it's only two.
It is, yeah.
It's one structure, joined, I don't think it's anything major. My opinion.
So we still have, some issues to look at here, so we should, whether we should, whether the fire department wants a paved driveway, whether that can be done, and whether we need, if we could, take a look and check and see if we really need those sprinkler systems. So, I guess the next thing we do is we could schedule another public hearing for this before,
The 8th? Make a motion to continue the public hearing to the 8th,
is it December 7th or the 8th?
December 8th, I thought it was.
Yeah, December 8th should be the Tuesday.
Okay. So your motion? Do I
What
hear a
time?
Second. It'll be, we're doing everything at 7 o'clock, so
At
all the
7,
meetings, and
yep.
then wherever they,
Second.
so a motion, a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Okay, the next in line here is a discussion on Commerce Way Realty Trust, the site plan review, 6 Commerce Way. And it's Assessors Map 21-2-2, and it's a proposed 6,000 square foot industrial building and parking lot involving zoning bylaw 3100. Filed with the town clerk November 3rd, 2015, and the last meeting was December 22nd.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'm gonna excuse myself for one of the companies that I own has done work with Mr. Artiano in the past.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. For the record, my name's Gregory Morse, registered engineer with Morse Engineering, Buzz Artiano, Commerce Way Realty Trust, the applicant with me. This is a site plan for a new industrial commercial building that Mr. Artiano wants to build on Lot 2 Commerce Way. Commerce Way is located down off of Plymouth Street. This is a subdivision he permitted in 2006. It's been primarily built out. The plan depicts the site as it exists right now. Lot 2, you'll see Commerce Way here on the western side of the site. To the south, we have Plymouth Street. Across the street is the Ravenbrook landfill. To the north, we have Route 44. And to the east, we have industrial zoned land. I believe SLT Construction is the occupant of that land currently. This is Lot 2. It's approximately 3.7 acres in size. It's been developed with 3 commercial buildings that you see depicted here. Around those buildings are parking areas for the buildings. There's a drainage system for this site. The drainage system drains to a detention basin down along Plymouth Street. What we're proposing to do we're proposing to build a new building. It's a 60 by 100 or 6,000 square foot building. I've highlighted it here on the plan. Where we've located it is where the existing septic system servicing the site is. So we would be relocating the septic system to this area of the site. The septic has been approved by the Board of Health at this point. The new building would have parking across the front of it. We have 8 new parking spaces. We have a concrete sidewalk across the front of the building. And what's important to note with this is it would have 0 impact on the drainage at this site. When we permitted this project back in 2006, we did the drainage calculations based on pavement of this entire area where this building is proposed. That pavement was never constructed, but that pavement was accounted for in the design for the drainage system on Lot 2 in the design of the detention basin servicing the site. So what we've already taken account for in the calculations includes this area where we're proposing the roof for this structure. I received the comments from Fuss and O'Neill dated November 20th. I just responded to those today. That's the revised plan that I just handed out. They asked for some additional information on the type of lighting, so I added some notes to the plan regarding the use of wall pack lighting in the mounting height locations of that lighting. I also added some notes in regards to some additional spot grades and elevations around the building that they were looking for. And I added one waiver request from your rules and regulations. That waiver request was from section 3251. 3251 is a requirement that along the public facade of a building, you have 10 feet of landscape where you have the public entrance. And so on this building here, we're having a public entrance on the front of the building. What I'm proposing across the front, this is in an industrial district, I'm proposing a 5-foot concrete sidewalk up to that front entranceway, not a 10-foot landscaped island. That's consistent with how the other buildings in this development have been built out. They've all been built out with a concrete sidewalk across the front of them, with no landscaping across the front of them. When we designed the road back in '06, we did additional landscaping within the roadway layout and around some of the landscape islands and along Plymouth Street, but again, we did not do any landscaping along the fronts of any of the other buildings in the development. I'd turn it over to you.
Anybody have any comments? I think you've addressed Sean's comments. There are comments by the fire department. It's about the it says, the size of the building is under the threshold for the Massachusetts sprinkler requirement. However, the building classification set by the Carver Building Department may require fire suppression systems, fire notification systems, et cetera, depending on what that classification is. You have any comments about that?
Sure. The property is serviced by town water. I'm not sure what the classification will be, but certainly if it's necessary, we'd be providing that. I'm not sure what the classification will be under that scenario, though. It meets the volume requirements. It's underneath the volume requirements for the sprinkler, so it would fully be based on the finished tenant that we end up with.
So that could be done at a later, I guess we could put that in.
Yeah, that, Mr. Chairman, Buzz Artiano, how are you?
Good.
That would be addressed under the building permit application. And
Okay.
obviously would comply with all that. The property is monitored 24/7, all buildings by integrated alarm system that's housed in the pump house there. And this building would be tied into that system as well. So that is got a landline plus a cellular backup line, and that notifies the police department whenever there's an issue, the fire department and the police department, and they both respond depending on the issue. And all the buildings are tied into that one system.
All right. Anybody else have any further comments?
Pretty straightforward to me.
Marlene has come up with a draft.
Yes, I have a draft motion for you if you would like to review it. If you want to ask for any public comment, you can certainly take that before you decide to look at this, though.
If there's anyone here tonight that would like to ask any question, make any comments about this project, you could step forward. Took you a while to think about that.
Well, I walked in late, that's basically, I reside,
If you could step up and use the microphone and just give your name and address, please.
thank you. Suzanne McDonald, 15 Green Street, Carver. I obviously walked in late, since there's no one else here for me to really ask.
Oh, yeah.
Oh. You missed that hearing. Fantastic. Never mind then, thank you so much.
Oh, you're not,
That's the duplex, 15 Green Street.
It has been continued, though, to December 8th.
Okay,
So
thank you, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't see this anywhere near my residence. I'm like, I don't even know how to ask.
It'll be-
December 8th,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice one, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
all right, seeing no one else standing up, we could, just one page.
Just one page.
All right, just want to make sure. So I suppose I'll read it and see if we agree with this, if there needs to be anything changed.
Yep.
So, as the applicant in Commerce Way Realty Trust, site plan review, industrial building, 6 Commerce Way, title reference, and it gives the book and page. Motion that the planning board vote to approve the site plan review application of Commerce Way Realty Trust for 6,000 square foot industrial building with the associated parking, paving, drainage, and landscaping at 6 Commerce Way as shown on the plan entitled Proposed Building, Lot 2, Commerce Way, Assessors Map 21, Lot 2-2, Carver, Mass., prepared for Commerce Way Realty Trust, prepared by Morse Engineering, Inc., Company, Inc., dated November 2nd, 2015, last revised November 22nd, 2015, scale 1 inch equals 40 feet, with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the planning board finds that the proposed building is located on Commerce Way with an existing industrial subdivision. The access and utilities have previously been reviewed and installed, and this site plan review is limited to the proposed warehouse building. The property is Zone Industrial B, and this use is allowed as of right. The board finds that the septic and drainage systems have been previously designed and permitted to accommodate this building. The board finds this building to be consistent with the existing structures on site and shall waive the requirements of Section 3251 to allow for reduced landscape buffer. Per the Carver Fire Department's memo of November 19th, 2015, the fire alarm system for the proposed building shall be integrated with the existing alarm system. The applicant should confirm directly with the building commissioner on the requirements for sprinklers within the building. The Conservation Commission has confirmed that no wetland resources will be impacted and that no conservation permits are necessary. The Board of Health has confirmed that the septic plans have been approved as of November 17th, 2015 for the proposed expansion. We have conditions. Therefore, the plans must be constructed as approved. Any revisions will require approval from the board as modification of this decision. 2, the fire alarm system for the proposed building shall be integrated with the existing system serving the other 3 buildings. 3, the applicant is responsible for the proper operation and maintenance of the site. During construction, sediment and soil erosion controls shall be installed, repaired, and supplemented as needed. Dust control is required during construction. And 4, any outstanding balance of the review and inspection deposit account shall be paid prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. So we could vote on this tonight if somebody wants to to, well, it isn't a public hearing, it's just,
Yeah, so a site plan review is not a permit. It's not appealable, it's not recordable, so you can vote on it tonight if you see fit. It's, Bruce read it as a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those,
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry to interrupt. The other thing is that because it's not a special permit, if you want to designate someone to sign this on the board's behalf, you can certainly do that, so you all don't need to track in and sign it. So if you wanna designate the chairman or vice chairman to sign on your behalf, I can set up the letter in that fashion.
since it's the holidays, I suppose, would everybody come in to sign this?
When will it be ready?
It'll be ready tomorrow.
Time we open till tomorrow.
4.
So I can swing by.
Okay.
You want me to swing by? I'll swing by and sign for everybody. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could,
I'll be by, I'm home all day, so I can do that.
All right, if you wanna do it, that's fine.
Set it up for Jim's signature?
Sure.
Okay.
okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second, and Jim will sign for us. Those in favor?
Aye.
And we have Will as an abstention.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanksgiving.
You too, bud.
You too. Good luck.
All right, as we move along here, we go on to other business, and we go to planning board members' notes. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to,
Actually, you skipped over a discussion.
oh, discussion, oh, sorry, yes, I did. Well, let's not go to other business then, let's go to a discussion for the, and this is important, proposed article for April 2016 town meeting to include stormwater management standards and fire protection distribution system requirements in the zoning bylaws.
So I want to bring this to your attention, and if you are so inclined to direct me to do this, I certainly will. But as I've been working with your bylaw, I've noticed that you, in your zoning bylaw, you don't actually have any performance standards for the drainage and the fire protection. You have in 3160 for performance standards, you have any new building construction or other site alteration shall provide adequate access to each structure for fire and service equipment and adequate provision for utilities and stormwater drainage consistent with the functional requirements of the planning board's subdivision rules and regulations. So you're cross-referencing subdivision rules. And I actually don't recommend you do that. A subdivision is a completely different animal than a special permit under zoning. So when you're sitting as a planning board under subdivision control, you're working under Mass General Law, Chapter 41, and the rules and regulations. When you're sitting as the special permit granting authority, you're working under General Law, Chapter 40A, and the local bylaw. So what I recommend is not to actually change the standards or rewrite the standards, but put them in the zoning bylaw. So the standards that are cross-referenced here, I'm not saying you need to change what they say, but they really should be in your zoning bylaw. So when you are issuing a special permit and you're talking about fire hydrants or you're talking about drainage, that you can cite this bylaw. That's actually really important if someone's gonna push back on you, because you have, subdivision control has nothing to do with a special permit. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. I have all of the standards. It's just a matter of, having town meeting adopt them into the bylaw. So if you want me to do that, I can prepare that warrant article for the April 11th town meeting. Over the spring, you can hold the hearings, make the recommendation to town meeting, and then bring that forward. At that point, you can review your standards and change them if you want to, but that's not my recommendation. I think your standards are just fine the way they are. I don't think your standards need to change. I think they just need to be in this book.
Basically included.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Sounds fine. Sounds good to me.
Okay. So
Okay.
I'll prepare that warrant article for you guys.
Thank you.
You'd be good, thank you.
Yep.
All right, now we can go to other business, and we can go to planning board member notes. Anybody, Will, you have anything to say? I know that you have something to say about the master plan.
Master Plan Committee meeting. We have a forum that is scheduled for January 21st at 7 PM. Got it right.
That's right.
It will be held at the high school library. This is really important that we're gonna start to reach out and start to better define the master plan. I encourage all the citizens in the town, a younger generation, to come, participate, be a part of what Carver's future will be. It's really important. This is the first of a couple of that's gonna be coming up. We're gonna be very specific on economic development, land use, agriculture, and housing. So these first topics are very important. I encourage everybody to come and participate. Your input does count. Your voice is strong. We need your help. Please come. That is January 21st at 7 PM at the high school. You'll keep hearing me say this until that day. We look forward to seeing you. Other than that, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. Everybody be safe.
You too?
Jimmy, have anything to,
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Ditto.
Kevin? Chad? I've been going to the master plan along with Will, Marlene, and it's been very interesting. And I would like to have as many people come and just listen to, we don't put anybody on the spot, but it's good to have as many people from the town come to listen, and then you might want to speak, but it's a very interesting, very friendly atmosphere, and a lot of good people we have. So I would encourage anybody to come. If there's, especially if there's Patriots aren't playing, then come to the master plan, or even if they are, come to the master plan meeting. But it should be good. All right, we have the minutes of October, and then everybody here, back of the room, and at home, have a good Thanksgiving. And we're gonna have good weather, so that'll be good for traveling. We have the minutes of October 27th, 2015.
Make a motion to approve as written.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
The minutes were great, very detailed.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry. Chad.
All right, and correspondence.
You have one letter. The board has received one letter from the dog mall asking for some clarification on a condition, of their special permit. So this is something you can either choose to clarify administratively, or you can require them to reopen the hearing. Your choice.
Mr. Chair, if I could. This is a clarification on the amount of dogs that are on the premises at one time, including the dogs, the owners' dogs that they use for training. It specifies in our decision that there was 8 dogs total, but it didn't specify if that included the training dogs that are there, that the facility uses.
I don't ever remember mentioning training dogs.
I don't remember it either, so I figured that I'd jog that memory.
Yeah, I don't remember anything being mentioned about them using dogs for training.
I can't remember.
I almost want to say she mentioned something about CNI dogs, but I'm not sure.
I can't remember. I tried to think back.
I know they mentioned the programs. I do remember them mentioning something about using the dogs for the programs and using them for 4-H, after-school programs. You remember that now?
I do,
So I think
now
she
that you
did.
mention that. But I don't think, I think the total amount of dogs on were like the customers coming
Customers'
in,
dogs.
Right.
not hers.
Not their dogs that they were using in the facility.
I just figured that that was part of the business, part of the training aids.
Right.
I,
So the way to do that then would be to directly say that not to include
Training
the
dogs.
specific amount of dogs in the training facility at the time?
Yeah, so condition number 14 in the permit reads, there shall be no more than 8 dogs on the premises at one time, including dogs owned by the applicant. And it's the applicants and her employees' dogs that are used as the trainers. And
I think we would want them to be specified as trainers, though, so that you wouldn't all of a sudden start getting a pet or something too, you know?
yeah,
So I think it would have to be a condition where they were specified as the training dogs. Would that make sense?
so, would you like it to read, there shall be no more than 8 customers' dogs on the premises at one time, which excludes dogs to be used as instructors or trainers?
that works for me.
Is it too much to put the specified as the instructing dogs as well?
No, yeah,
That pretty much well covers that they're not gonna be a pet.
yes.
Well, one of the questions they have here is we wanted to request an administrative correction to this condition to allow our personal dogs and our instructors' dogs. So it looks as though they're looking for a personal, what's a pet?
No, so the owner's dogs and her employees' dogs are on the premises to be used as.
I'm just saying, the way it sounds here, to allow our personal dogs and our instructors' dogs.
And all of those dogs are
used for training
used as
purposes.
training dogs. So the condition will be specific, which excludes dogs specifically used as
Right.
training and
Oh,
dogs.
but that's good that, you know,
Right.
don't want any,
Their dogs just to.
confusion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can change that? Do we have to vote on that?
Yes, you have to
as well?
vote on that as an administrative change to condition number 14.
14, okay.
I'll make a motion to do said administrative change as specified as we discussed. I don't have the exact language.
So the
I'll
exact,
second it.
yeah, the exact language would be, there shall be no more than 8 customers' dogs on the premises at one time, which excludes dogs specifically used as trainers.
So we have a motion, and we have a second.
Kevin seconded.
Kevin seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's It's unanimous.
Will, I just have one last question. The 21st, what was the time on that?
It's 7 o'clock.
Okay, thanks. Just wanted to make sure the public heard that because I couldn't remember what time it was.
All right, let's talk about the next meeting dates. We have usually scheduled would be December 8th and the 22nd. So we have meetings scheduled for December 8th. So we're just wondering if you need the 22nd also, or?
I'm just alerting you to the next two dates in case
okay.
in case you didn't want to continue something immediately to the next meeting, that would be the next date for continuation. But those are your next two meetings.
Okay. Does that work with everybody through the holidays?
Okay, great.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
Have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye. 8:07.
Good night.